Have you got a back problem? Maybe you've been told that it's your transverse abdominis not engaging at the right time. Well, I'm going to say it's not that. I'm going to say it's something different. I'm going to say the transverse abdominis is just one part in a very more complex system. So what we're going to do in this tutorial is talk about why the transverse abdominis isn't causing your back problem and start to understand possibly what is and how to stabilise your spine to prevent that. If you are struggling with lower back pain, then please do click the link below and you'll go through to my How to Overcome Lower Back Pain consultation and coaching. There is an online version, there is a face-to-face version for the people in the UK. And what we will do is we will sit down, talk through your lower back pain, go through the full consultation, full assessment, and then start taking you through the rehabilitation program that will be specific to you based on your lower back pain. The first part to this, and understanding the transverse abdominis, is a lot of people think that it's a natural weight belt. So it's there to sort of hold the spine and compress on the spine. But what I'm going to say, as I mentioned in the introduction, it's just one piece in a more complex system. So what you can see here is a bird's eye view looking down. So we've chopped a body in half, and you can see you've got the spine here. You've got the lower back muscles here, 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 and here. Then you've got internal, external obliques around the side. And then you can see the two rectus abdominis here and here. And what you should also be able to see is you've got transverse abdominis, which is sort of on the inside of all of this here. Now, as I've mentioned, it is just one system, it's just one muscle within a more complex system. And as you can see, you've got all these different muscles. You've got quadratus lumborum on each side. You've got the psoas. You've even got the smaller muscles that go from spinous process to spinous process, transverse process to transverse process, so on and so forth. The erector spinae muscles. You've got the erectus abdominis. And you've got internal and external obliques on the outside. This is how you stabilise your spine, by using all of these muscles, not the transverse abdominis. That is, unfortunately, a very well-known myth that most people take to be true. So the nature's weight belt, or natural weight belt that you have, is all of these muscles together. And as you can see, you've got rectus abdominis that comes down, you've got external obliques that come down the side. So these are the superficial muscles. Now all of these muscles work to stabilize the spine. So if you have one muscle that isn't timing quite properly, then you've got all these other muscles that are there to do the job if you know how to engage the core muscles. And that's what we're going to talk about in the next slide. And it's hollowing and bracing. So hollowing is where, so this is the transverse abdominis that sort of comes, you can see all the fibers through here, and it is where where people say you need to suck your navel into your spine. And so essentially all you're doing is you're drawing in or drawing back your abdomen, which is said to contract the transverse abdominis. Now, if we just simply take what we've spoken about already, which is the TVA is just one muscle within a greater system. If we are trying to isolate that muscle, then we are missing out on all the other different muscles. So we've got, as you've heard and as I've said, you've got internal and external oblique on the side. You've got rectus abdominis coming down the middle. Obviously on the other side, you've got internal external obliques. So you've got all these different muscles that you can call upon. You've got lats on the back. So there are a lot of different muscles to be called upon. So if we are just focusing on transverse abdominis, which in some respects is a bit of a pointless thing to do, then we're going to be missing out on proper spine stability. And I'm going to add more about spine stability into the next slide. So what we need to be doing is bracing, because when we brace, we use all of those different muscles. We use rectus abdominis at the front. We use internal, external obliques down the side. We can use, depending on the type of brace that we need and how much we need the brace, we can use latissimus dorsi. We will also engage, we can also engage QL through certain means as well. So there are different ways of bracing. Now, one of the things that has been said is when we sneeze or doing basic movements, what you will find is that is a brace. So sneezing is a brace, laughing is a brace, because what you're doing is you're stiffening the musculature of the torso. You're not drawing in. When you get up from a seat, again, you are not hollowing. You will abrade. You may engage TVA, you may draw in, but the initial contraction is a brace. Your body wants to naturally brace, or unconsciously it wants to brace. So that is something that your body wants to do. If we can consciously do it, then it's all the better, because we can, what I describe as like pre-brace. So we can pre-brace and then we can move, and then we don't get the instability through the spine. If we leave it to the unconscious, then we may not brace naturally, and then that's what can cause some problems, because the muscles are trying to catch up with what's just happened. So it's a much more effective way of stabilizing the spine is the brace, using multiple muscles as we've described in all the three layers, because they are connected, those three layers. It's not like one layer and then the next layer and then the next layer, and they're all separate. They're all joined, and if we go back to the slide before, you'll be able to see that. So it's more effective to stabilize the spine using brace. So finally, how to stabilize your spine. So I've got a picture of the pelvis here, and as we've talked about, there are multiple muscles around the spine. So if we start with the deep layer, you've got QL, which sort of comes down here, and then you've got the other QL on the other side, which again will come down here. So they join onto the spinous or the transverse processes on either side of the spine. So essentially, it's connecting the rib cage, the pelvis, and the spine. So when that contracts, and again, it's not a concentric and eccentric contraction, it's an isometric contraction. So it's locking it all in place. It's not there to bend the spine. It is there to isometrically contract and hold each of these vertebrae in place. You'll then have multifidus, which will go between each of these, and again that will be on both sides. You've then got internal and external obliques, as I've shown, which will sort of come down through here. You've got rectus abdominis, which will come directly down the middle, join onto the front of the pelvis, and that will sort of come off here and go up here. So you've got all these different muscles, again, internal, external obliques, sort of on this side, which will come around the rib cage, come down the pelvis, and sort of join in here. All of this is connected by the thoracolumbar fascia. So again, when you contract these muscles, what you're doing is you're stiffening the area. So all of these muscles work together. It's not just the transverse abdominis. And again, when we're talking about stabilizing the spine, we talk about intra-abdominal pressure. So this is something that you may have heard. Now again, the transverse abdominis won't be able to hold the hoop stress, hold the internal pressure or inter-abdominal pressure, because we've got these hoop stresses. Now what happens is when we go to lift something, it could be a heavy weight, it could be just getting out of a seat, it could be sneezing, it could be laughing, whatever it is, there is an intra-abdominal pressure which is pushing out onto the muscles. So as you can see in this diagram, you can see the pressure going out onto the muscles here. And then what then is happening is obviously the abdominal cavity is wanting to expand. Now that's then where the muscle contraction comes in. So when we brace, when we use all these different muscles and engage all these different muscles, that is the neutralizing effect to the internal pressure that's pushing out. So these hoop stresses basically hold the intra-abdominal pressure in place. So these muscles are essentially a part of the hoop stress, and it's the pushing out and the holding in which stabilizes the spine, because that creates a stiffened torso or a stabilized spine, or however you want to describe it, because it's holding it in place. The intra-abdominal pressure wants to push out, your muscles are holding in, and that neutralizing force is the stabilizing effect, if you will. So it's very much holding the torso with the brace, creating these hoop stresses, and it's that that's stabilizing the spine, not the drawing in of the TVA. Because the TVA, as I've mentioned at the start, is one muscle within a more complex system that, if left to its own devices, won't be able to stabilize the spine because of the other forces that are in play when we go about. Could be lifting weights in the gym, could be opening a door, could be opening a car door, could be lifting shopping bags, whatever it is. So we have to be mindful that the TVA isn't going to do the job that we want it to. So hollowing doesn't work effectively. What we want is all the muscles to be working, which then brings in bracing, which then starts talking about these hoop stresses and the stabilizing of the spine. Many thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this content and you've liked it, please do hit the like button below. Hit the subscribe button. You'll be notified when I release my next video. And if you have any comments or questions about anything that I've talked about during this tutorial, please do just stick them in the comment section below and I'll be happy to answer them as best as I can. So many thanks for watching. My name is Chris. I'll speak to you in the next tutorial.